You know, having a vision retreat for your marriage, having a vision for your marriage is massive. We're talking about being married on purpose. And you ask the average couple, did God put you together? And they'll say, oh, absolutely. I married my soulmate. We're supposed to be together. And then you ask them, why did God put you together? And they'll say, well, we don't know, because they've never talked about it. Let me say, we had neither. But when we had our first vision retreat, it transformed our relationship. And Karen, I remember when we went to the lake, we borrowed a friend's lake house, and we went to the lake, and we were having tension about, and our kids were much younger then, but we were having tension about money, about my schedule, okay, and about the kids. We had teenagers at that time, and we weren't fighting all the time. But we were having.
Well, they were the trigger points. They were definitely the trigger points that would, that we couldn't get past. I mean, we would make peace with each other, but it was like there's that underlying that we really hadn't come to a conclusion of why is this so frustrating. And I can remember even with your schedule, like you said, and you mentioned, about putting, the church or a ministry before your marriage, and so when you and I first got married, we were so young. And I remember I was always very supportive of whatever you wanted to do, whether it was working in a car wash or for your parents in an appliance store. And then when the Lord called you to the ministry, I was behind you 100%. Yes. And so that felt like a purpose. That felt like a purpose to us for our marriage. When in reality, that couldn't have been the purpose. That shouldn't have been the purpose. That's right. And that's where the conflicts would come, because the purpose for our marriage was for you and I to have a family unit that loved God and loved our children and loved community and was a vessel for whatever God wanted. And if it was the ministry, great. But our marriage, we did have to learn that it had to be first. And you were so good about that. When you finally got it, we realized how much of that had come into our marriage. You coming to me and repenting and saying, I'll quit everything. Whether it was golf or whether it was the church or, just because you made me feel like I really was the most important thing. And that it's transforming, when you realize, that God does have a purpose for your marriage, and it's not just about your work, it's not about the kids, it's about you as a couple being one and representing the kingdom of God in a way that no one else can. Right. You and I are unique because it's you and me. Right. And it's a special place, to come to that conclusion.
Well, we're going to talk about some of the practical elements of having a vision retreat, but sometimes you can be a victim of your own success. Because many of businessmen and women, you have a vision for your business. You're trained to have a vision for your business. In the ministry, a pastor, and I'm a pastor came up to me about a month ago and said to me, Jimmy, what's the divorce rate in the church? Because I hear it's the same as it is outside the church. And my response it literally shocked this pastor. I said, the divorce rate among pastors in America is 50%. 1,500 pastors leave the ministry every month because of divorce, burnout, adultery, whatever it might be. But the pressure that is on pastors, but that's not the problem. The problem is that many pastors have a vision for their church, but not for their marriage. And their marriage just gets drugged behind the church. It becomes second to the church. This is what happened to us, is that I was very motivated. I had a vision for the church. The church was growing, and we were suffering in our relationship because of that until we decided our marriage came first, and we had a vision for our marriage. And it's like a train. The vision for your marriage is the engine. The vision for everything else is another car behind that engine. You have a vision for your marriage, then you have a vision for your children. You have a vision for your broader family. You have a vision for your ministry. You have a vision for your business and all the other things that come behind that. But the marriage is the engine, because your marriage is for a lifetime. These things are not for a lifetime, many of them, but this is for a lifetime. Let me say something else. If you're successful in marriage, you're happy. You can be very successful in business and be miserable because your marriage is failing. So we learned, Karen, at that lake house, and we've had many vision retreats since then, we learned to get away and have a vision retreat. Now, we believe that it should be 3 days, probably minimum to 5 days, okay? You should not take your children. Okay, let me just say, God love your children, but you need to get a babysitter and you need to get away without your children, but it doesn't have to be expensive. Now, we borrowed a friend's lake house. when we went. And we struggled financially back in those days. I mean, I didn't make a whole lot of money. And we went to some really crummy hotels and some crummy places. But I'll tell you, those times that we spent away, in the mornings we'd wake up, talk, pray. We just kind of had an agenda of the main things that we wanted to talk about. And they really were the tension areas of our relationship.
And there was so much tension already with you and I that I think that's what helped me. Is you said, now Karen, we're going to pray first and see what God says. And it was just like, oh, good, God's in
I was
this.
really praying for you. I was saying, pray, God, please change her.
Because I really was. I was so worried that he was going to like, okay, this is what I think we should do. And I was like, okay, good, God's in this.
Well, we've had people get in fights on their vision retreat because one tried to bully the other.
Exactly. And so, it was so refreshing, because it does. There's just something that settles you when you think, okay, look, I can trust God, and I can trust that He does have our best interest and that He wants the best for us. And that, and not that we each other didn't, it's just that we couldn't get past issues. And so, it's such a great thing to start it with.
Thank you for joining us. Experience the life-changing series Lifelong Love Affair on CD or DVD. Follow your interests and get social by connecting with Jimmy and Karen and the Ministry of Marriage Today on Twitter. Marriage Today's latest book, Lifelong Love Affair, is an essential tool couples can turn to again and again for inspiration and strength. Order your copy today. Become a rock-solid partner today and equip yourself with the tools you need for a successful marriage. $14, $28, or $56 per month. Choose the partnership level that's right for you. Become a rock-solid partner today.